Upgrades.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for yet again another movie review in 2023. We're talking about Creed 3. It officially drops on March the 1st, even though this says March the 3rd. But I believe it drops early on March the 1st on IMAX for certain special screenings. But the official launch is going to be March the 3rd. This is Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. He is yet again reprising his role as Adonis Creed and going up against Jonathan Majors, which we're going to go into all the nicks and crannies, but we will let you guys know this is a non-spoiler review. So we're not going to review stuff, even though we want to. And we're going to talk about how did Michael fare up with his directorial debut and how did the legacy of Creed get continued. I'm going to go and give some other people that are part of this review a little bit of shine. What's going on, Jedi Mike?
How you doing? Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to talk about it. I have Derek Dunn of Reviews and Dunn. What's going on, Derek?
What's going on, family?
Yeah, man. I'm so glad to have you here, dude. I've been waiting for you to be a part of this for a minute.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and kind of get down into the brass tacks of this. So I don't know about you guys, but I was actually highly anticipating this movie. I was curious because I was like, what are they going to do with Jonathan Majors' characters? And even more than that, what is going to happen to Adonis? Like, what are they going to do more than where they left off? Because I felt like, honestly, the second movie, that could have been it. You know, I could have taken, a possible Drago spinoff. I could have maybe had like a mentoring situation going on, but I didn't know whether or not I wanted a Creed 3 until I saw the first trailer. So for you guys, when you saw the first trailer of this, what was you guys' excitement? Were you guys intrigued? Were you kind of like, I don't know? Or you were like, oh, this is a day one. I got to see it. Mike, I'll let you go first.
This was day one. If anything, it was early screening. If I could have got it, But honestly, it was the trailer. Not only just in terms of like what it was anticipating for not only being his directorial debut before we even knew the trailer was coming out, but even as you're watching it, was the base story. Wasn't the revenge story. It was a story about guilt, trauma, undealt with deeds of his past. And honestly, what the thing that obviously captivated me, obviously, was Jonathan Majors. Again, just the way his performance, how he carries himself, the amount of gravitas he has in terms of fully investing himself in these roles that he's take. That was really just captivating me to be there on opening day.
I share the same sentiments. It was definitely going to be a day one, regardless. It's obvious that MBJ was very passionate about this character, very passionate about this project. I feel like he knew going in that for his directorial debut, he decided to do a character he's very familiar with, and he knew that kind of how film buffs kind of know. I call it the threequel curse, where the third entry is usually the weakest one. It's not the case with this one, so he knew what tropes to avoid and what plot points to hit to make it as commercial as possible while still catering to the diehard Rocky / Creed fans.
You're muted, Sam.
Technically the first IMAX sports film. Like he technically shot this whole entire film with IMAX, and so that is in and of itself is a feat. But this is the thing that I got to talk about for the first positives for me was the fights, the fight choreography, and I think the camera work between shots going back and forth. I was really impressed by what they were able to get, what they were able to do. And I mean, a lot of people were kind of like, oh, there's some anime influences there. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And then I looked, I was like, what are you doing, Jonathan Majors? What are you doing, Michael B. Jordan? This is amazing. So for me, I just found it so exciting. And it's not to say that the other Creed movies didn't have good fight scenes. I think they were all really good fight scenes. It's just the way that this is captured. It felt like every single fight scene was like its own story. Specifically, the last fight, it kind of felt like, oh wow, this is a whole story being unfolded from how the movie even began and progressed, outside of what Adonis' storyline is going. So I was curious y'all's perspective on the fight scenes, the imagery, the choreography, and then even shooting IMAX. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, not only the fact of shooting IMAX, given the grand scale of it being an event, like it being a fan in the stadiums and watching this fight, but also getting the perspective of a fighter. Like we've seen countless, just as any of you being a fan of sports films, we always seen the perspective of a fighter, and especially in the boxing ring. But now, obviously, with the use of IMAX, use of cinematography used in the right way, it's almost to the point where that itself, the whole stage of itself becomes a character in a way, because or the setting of where you're putting in fully invested in these characters and the scene they are, to a point where, listen, the fighter, he's tuning everybody out to a point they're not even there, right? And just you and me, and also with the emotion behind every punch that you take, and then only how calculated you have to be in terms of being a fighter. Like I have martial arts background myself, so when I'm watching just certain things that are happening here, but now using it in a more of a dramatic effect, and I felt really executed in a way where, as a fan watching it, I really related to it a lot. And in terms of you being calculated, and also how every punch you felt the pain, you felt the hurt, even some cheap shots in there, or it's like, oh man, got him again. I felt that it was really invested in terms of how they were strategically using the camera in a way, moving you as every punch they were making in this film, and you felt every hit.
Yeah, no, for sure. What about you, Derek? What do you think?
The fight scenes were dope. I appreciated that they had a little bit of realism to them, as Mike alluded to. You're actually in the ring. You felt every punch. You felt the emotion and the bravado between our two, titans, duking it out in that last fight. Even the stuff that led up to it. Usually with the Rocky movies, you kind of know where it's going to go, but they weren't, all about the victory. It was like, nah, they really have some serious beef that they have to get out of each other. And I think the realism with the fights is really going to surprise a lot of people when they see it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, this, even though I talked about how well the fight scenes were shot, this does go and segue to possibly a negative. But I'll go into what I mean by that. So this is the shortest, I believe, of all the Creed films. I think this is roughly rounding out around like an hour and 54 minutes. And when I remember going back, even the first Creed and the second one, there's a lot of fights. Now, some, like, you're actually only seeing like 5 fights, and then the rest you're kind of seeing like little segues and you're using exposition to kind of express or talk about it. But really, honestly, there's only 2 to 3 technical fights in this, and that's it. And it's kind of like, it kind of feels for me at times where I was like, man, I love what I got, but I was like, I kind of wanted a little bit more, because that's kind of one of the things from a character progression is leveling up or getting through the grind. And I think when you're actually going into Jonathan Major's character, like, he is ferocious. We haven't even gotten into the character progressions or talking about any of the characters. But one of the things with him is I was like, I would have liked to see a little bit more. Did you guys kind of feel the same impressions as far as the length of the movie or even the amount of fights in this film? Either one of you guys can go first.
You want to go ahead? I'm done.
Yeah, I got it. All right. So I felt with the fights, I mean, obviously looking at it from a filmmaking standpoint, they cut a lot of stuff out. And I think that was intentional. Who knows? I mean, there might be a longer director's cut cooking up. As Sam was alluding to, there could have been more with Jonathan Majors, like, possibly showing him in, seeing the trailer, he says he went to prison. So there could have been maybe like showing him, doing his thing in prison, or even some street fights. But I felt like they didn't want to give us too much, and they knew based on how Jonathan Majors carries himself with his acting style, what we're gonna give you. We're gonna give you enough to follow his arc and then understand his motivation behind, why he's doing what he's doing. So I think they wanted to avoid, overkill because hell, the trailer alone, you see that he is like I keep saying, he's a freak of nature. I mean, this dude is extremely swole in this movie, and just his whole bravado and the way he carries himself, like that he's not playing no games. So I felt like it was enough. But as a Jonathan Majors fan, it would have been nice to see some more of him just, as you say, deboning folks and just going beast mode for no reason. But I felt like they gave us just enough for you either gonna loathe his character or you're gonna be rooting for him the entire time.
Yeah, there's a movie called Warrior, right? I'll use that as a common example. And one of the things is like, you got two brothers in the ring going up, but the reason why everybody remembers Tom Hardy as a real threat is you see him go through people leading up to the main event. And I kind of was like, Jonathan could pull that out the bag. It's just small little things. For me, I felt like that could have been an extension to the film to make it a little bit more intense. But for you, Mike, maybe you didn't have any issue with like the amount of fights and kind of the length of the movie. But kind of, what was your take on that?
Yeah, I did mention. I mean, I mentioned to you like when the film was over, I was like, "Oh wait, it's over." I'm like, okay. I feel like you can make an argument that that maybe Michael B. Jordan's kind of playing safe with this being his first outing as being a director, which I don't blame him in terms of like I guess any sense of when you're dealing with something that you have responsibility over on your own thing or your own craft, and you tend to become a perfectionist. Is sometimes when you feel like maybe I need to remove this shot or maybe whatever, and then maybe after the final product, you feel like, okay, I could have added this back in, maybe I could add this back, whatever. I think, again, that just is anybody in sense of creating their own craft. I feel that we all can be at fault in terms of probably being over perfectionist and something like that and trying to play it safe and everything. But I think, again, with that came to also with Jonathan Majors' performance. I feel like just the story that because it's just of him as an actor, I feel like, and what you've seen in countless and many films that he's been in before, is the fact that he's an actor that he's a very good character actor. He's fully immersed in terms of whatever role he takes, and I feel that in this film, I felt that they gave him a rich story to display that drama, especially the few scenes which I really I can't say, but like when it's just him alone in this scene and he's like expressing his rage and his inner turmoil, and I felt like maybe I want to see more of that explored in a way, just because I just know how much a greater impact his performance can give to the audience if just let Jonathan Majors just fully just go out all in and everything. But what I gotten, what I received here, I'm not complaining. I actually felt really satisfied with the story that I've gotten, even with the performances and everything. And I felt maybe the fact that because of the lack of the fights actually gave more in terms of just a more personal story with them, which actually for me made a more satisfying story than actually feeling incomplete because there wasn't many fights in this movie.
Yeah, that's a great segue because I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I really love the first Creed, but I started to really enjoy the second one because of the character dynamics. And in this one, they lean into it. Like you get to see a real evolution of Adonis Creed. You get to see a Tessa Thompson's character kind of come into her own. Like we're living out where these characters should or would go. And there's also some time skips here and there. But I think honestly, every single character in this one gets a moment to shine, but their character development, their chemistry, there's a lot of chemistry in this.
Wow.
Like when you think about Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan, yeah, I mean, they're great actors, but their dynamics and their conversation, they feel like legitimate brothers. Like whether it's, animosity, whether it's the subtle nuances, whether it's the handshake, you feel it. When Tessa Thompson and Michael B. Jordan are together, you feel like they're legit a whole couple. Like they've been couple for years, even down to the relationship with Adonis and his daughter. Like it felt real. And I think that in a movie like this, most sport movies, either they'll get the shots right, the action right, or they'll get some of the drama right. But this one, I felt like they got the characters believable and right. And I was curious, you guys, what was one of your standout characters and roles or interactions? What was one of the things you loved about this? I'll let you go, Mike.
Number one, but like we gotta say it, the queen herself, Felicia Rashad. Um, there were her, again, her performance in this entire, I guess, trilogy, you say, as a mother figure and everything, maternal figure and everything, I felt was just very powerful, and being the side of wisdom, even to a point as my own relationship with my mother, that you might not think now, you being an adult now, about to be married and you have to have children and everything, and you're thinking now some decisions they made to prevent you, to protect you, not realizing like what we're understanding what decisions our parents make and being frustrated with them, not knowing they're always coming from a very sincere place. And even then, also too, the stakes of just, I love how all these characters matured again with this entire trilogy. Again, not only just with the relate the status that now Adonis and his family is now, but also just now, just also like, hey, listen, they're dealing with life costs. People are getting old. We're dealing with now. You've been longer in your marriage, and then you're gonna be dealing with some interpersonal relationship troubles and everything, and arguments. And I felt the way, again, going back to Tessa Thompson, the way they even exhibit the chemistry between them in terms of like them arguing, her being a mother, being a wife to Adonis, and also understand that she has her own path and her own dreams that she wanted to do, and that she didn't really get to do just because of just life experiences and everything. And I just felt the way they did that in terms of like, I also, as a husband, him holding things in, not really being forthcoming to his wife. I understand that, so I just felt that and feeling that type of relationship now, it's just really relatable, especially to now when Jonathan Major's character come in as a wife. You understand, like, wait, I never knew anything about you, and you saying you guys are brothers. What happened? And I guess that, to me, again, that level of, also, even there might have been 5 or 6 years in or whatever in their marriage, there's still a level of trust that he still haven't gave to his wife at that moment. I just thought that was very powerful.
Speak on it, Mike. I mean, that family dynamic in this movie was so real and so relatable. Like, we're all married. I don't know if you're a father, Mike, but Sam and I are fathers. And one of the things that immediately, like, just, I have to big up MBJ as a director was, do you guys think that the young lady that played the daughter, do you think she was really deaf? And
I don't really know, because I do know the last time this happened was in The Last of Us, and the young actor from Maryland, he actually was. I'm not sure about the young lady. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But either way, I also just like that they added that in there in terms of her, because we don't really see a lot of dynamics in families and film media, dealing with children who have autism, dealing with children who have other situations where it might be. But then again, just normalizing it to the point there wasn't any type of distraction in this film at all. Even to the point where she's interacting with other children in school, they just made like a normal situation where, hey, your child misbehaving in class and everything. And I just thought that, again, the way they just apply these messages in these films, again, just about family and these relationships and everything, and making it just more real and personal. I just felt that I just give them props to how they executed it.
Yeah, they definitely did something that I didn't expect. I thought that they were gonna kind of lean into the past because of an action, but really, it also surrounds like mental health and trauma. Like us as Black men, how we process trauma, how do we get over it, how do we avoid it, and what does avoiding it do? What does it do to our marriage? What does it do to our kids? And it's kind of like you said, like they normalize the relationship with the dad and the mom with just using sign language. Like mom had a conversation randomly because something the girl did, and Michael B. Jordan's character said, "See, this is what I thought about this school, yada yada." And the mom was like, "Wait, what do you mean by that?" Like conversations like that are natural; they have to. And so for Michael B. Jordan to use that, I'm very surprised. At times, it doesn't feel like a sports movie. Sometimes it feels more like an actual drama. And if a sports drama, either 1 or 2 times can kind of play out like a autobiography when it's got to be dramatic. But instead, there was an actual intent here. But I do want to harp into trauma because Adonis and Dom are dealing with two levels of trauma. And
Yeah.
the only thing that I'm going to say is I wish, I'm trying to be careful how I say it. I wish I would have seen more of what was going on inside of Jonathan Majors' head because we get to outwardly say it. We got to outwardly see his actions and the things that he does, but we never get moments where he's vulnerable to see it, if that makes sense, without spoiling anything. I know you guys understand what I'm saying, but I'm trying to articulate it in a way so other people can understand it once they see the movie. But the thing about it, he's so good of an actor that he still comes through anyway. Like I understand what he's dealing with. I understand what he's saying. Even when he is taking jabs at certain people, I was like, there's intent there. There's actual care and consideration there. Like I was like, he's looking at everything and assessing stuff. Like you can really feel that there is a real love-hate relationship going on with everyone around Dom's character. Mm-hmm. I love that. I really do love it.
Let's piggy.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So and to piggyback on what Sam is saying, there's so much like human emotions in this film. As I was saying when we were leaving, I think it's going to really surprise a lot of people. Some of the places that they go. I mean, even if you guys think about, for me with Jonathan Majors, there was so much stuff in his eyes to where you're almost thinking like, all right, so he has an intention. He's our antagonist, but for me, there are moments where I'm like, yo, he was kind of questioning what he was doing, but once he got that taste of success, went to his head, and it's like you realize that maybe he got blinded by the success that he had achieved, and then like it just took over what he was trying to do. Small spoiler, because I felt like Adonis really was trying to help him out, but you had to have a bad guy, and Major just totally sold that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, I question whether if I look at it from an open lens, I don't see him any different than somebody like Mike Tyson. Like he's not the villain.
Oh,
he's
wow.
not the villain at all.
Wow.
Because the truth of the matter is, Mike Tyson went to prison, came out, and like, what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to be real here because I actually understand and comprehend more about what Dom was doing than I did even making comparison with Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson is one of the greatest of all time. But Mike, what were you gonna say without me cutting you off?
And well, I want to piggyback on that point, but first we're going to a point of you go back to Jonathan Majors about the inner turmoil that he's, I want to see more of that. But again, I've just, as anybody, I've experienced betrayal. I experienced betrayal of a friend, right? To a point that's more, the things that make you do in terms of like, one, you just want to make them feel what they felt, not because you want to make them suffer. I felt there was a couple of even looks that Jonathan Majors gave in the beginning of the movie when he first getting, introduced and stuff, that he's actually looking some type of affirmation from Michael B. Jordan about the experience that happened when they were children, and then until you get that, at the their how that resolves at the end and everything. I just felt that the looks, in terms of the face acting that he was giving, is more of like he's looking for something he's been craving for over 18 years, right? And I'm just saying, what does either bitterness, unforgiveness does to you, especially again also to a point of Michael B. Jordan's point. We might deal with guilt. We don't know what some of our friends might have done, how they feel with things we might have done. At moments where we might have done, throw them under the bus or either unintentionally or whatever, and we feel like, listen, I have a lot of regret of this situation of what they're dealing with right now, and how he's dealing with that, how he's have the unforgiveness on himself, right? Saying he had to forgive himself of that experience and everything. But again, how that whole driving force at the end, again, just the conversation, it wasn't really the fight. It's more of again the dialogue between these two people. I felt really that was the impact I got out of this film.
Yeah. there are there are secrets, you guys. There are things that we're keeping
Oh yes.
close-lipped on that happens in this film. It gets emotional. It gets exciting. There are characters. There's a lot that we're keeping close to the chest. And even down to the anime references that we're just gonna kind of keep it there and leave it. But I can't not talk about the elephant in the room. It's because a certain character it started with, which is Sly, which is of course Rocky, is not present in this film. Most people already know that. For certain creative reasons, Sylvester Stallone opted to not be a part of this project. And I think that the question that I'd have for you guys is: do you guys feel that his absence deflate certain emotional elements of this, or do you kind of feel like no, it was fine because this is Adonis's narrative? Because it kind of comes off watching it like it felt like very intentional. They're trying to not go there. I'm not making a comparison like Vin Diesel and The Rock or anything like that, but it felt like there was a creative narrative choice to not add Rocky, even though Rocky is a part of this universe in such a big way. For me personally, I didn't have an issue with it. I had more of an issue with certain ways that the ending ended. And I felt like the movie, without saying too much, there are certain promotions that they did early on that make a person perceive the story is going to go a certain narrative way. And that's not it. So I would say whatever you saw in the trailers, just forget it. Just watch the movie cold and enjoy what you see. Don't try to perceive where you think the narrative is going to go because you may get disappointed. Because even me, I thought that way, but I was like, I still don't know how I feel about the ending. And I feel like if the movie was a little bit longer, there's certain key things that you could do with certain characters to make this go a certain way. And I don't know where this franchise is going, but I do want to bring that up because that is a huge element to this. This is it was initially Rocky and now it's Creed. So if you guys want to talk towards that and any other issues you have with the film, we'll close out from there.
For me, with the absence of Sly, I wasn't bothered by it, and I'm gonna tell you why. After Creed 2, when Rocky shows up to Rocky Jr.'s house and he sees his grandson, I kind of took that as right there they were bookending Rocky's story, almost to where that Rocky had given close to 40, no, it was 40 years. Yeah, Rocky had given 40 plus years of boxing. That's all he knew. And it kind of affected his relationship with Rocky Jr.
Yep.
With Robert. So now you see it where, Donnie kind of, closed out his story in the second one before we knew there was going to be a third one. He has closure, with his father passing. I can kind of, fall back from boxing. I know Donnie's going to be good with Duke Jr. I can now give my all for whatever time I have left to Robert Jr. and, my grandson. So they could have, did like we were saying when we were leaving the screening, they could have did maybe something small, but honestly, he wasn't missed. And I think when people see it and they see how they actually handle it and they see where Adonis is now, his relationship with Duke and his relationship with Bianca and with, his mom and with his daughter, like you really didn't need Rocky there. And you could have handled it like, a certain way, but it would have been like, it's just for, to appease folks to where it's like, all right, he could have got a telegram or a quick little phone call, but
giving a check mark basically.
Yeah, but it might have come across as forced. Now, that's not to say that if we ever get to Rocky 7, they were talking about, where Rocky was going to be training a Hispanic kid who was illegal, then they could do something like Rocky's picking up a paper and it says what Creed is doing, and he just smiles and nods. Something like that. But personally, I felt like he wasn't needed. And I think when the masses see it, they'll kind of agree that he really wasn't needed because Ryan Coogler's brother who wrote the script. Ryan Coogler, MBJ, they all set up to where he's not really missed. At least for me, he wasn't.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I remember I asked you about this, about the question after we were watching the film, but I literally was not even. And then there's no disrespect. I wasn't even thinking of Rocky until when the movie was over. Not because of I was like kind of tune them out. It's like I was just invested with the story that was presented to me. I know that this was perceived kind of backlash, just with the knowing that you're not going to be in this film, and but I honestly just say to anybody who's ain't have apprehensions about this, the absence of Rocky does not take away from the story that's given here at all. And if anything, you want to think of it just as a grander scale, in terms of this entire, from the first Creed to now this one. If anything, you see just because the influence of what Rocky has done in the previous two films, it kind of led to some of the decisions that that Adonis is taking in this film, which I saw. So I just think that if anything, it just showed just the fact that hey, as a coach or as a as a guardian who was covering me for over these past two films, I felt now you can see the influences of Rocky and decisions that he's making in this film.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so I'm gonna ask the unanswerable question of where do you guys rank this within the Creed films, not the Rocky franchise? And then if you want to give your closing remarks and final grade, we'll do A to F to make it a little bit easier. We're not gonna go the numbers game. So where does this rank for you guys as far as the Creed films, and then what is your letter grade and why?
Ranking, I'm still. It's tough to say. Like I said, I mean, I'm gonna say that it avoids the threequel curse.
Oh yeah.
In terms of narrative beats and the emotion, I'm gonna put it slightly above the second one. Boxing wise, maybe right under the second one. So I'm gonna say like 1, 3, 2. That could change tomorrow, though. It could be 1, 2, 3 tomorrow. But for right now, let's say 1, 3, and 2.
Respect. So the first one is still the top.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mike, what about you? Oh wait, hold on. What's your rating for this one?
Oh, so when I publish my review, I'm leaning towards an A minus. A couple of things that I would have changed around, but I'm sure it was editing decision. But as I mentioned to the rep and as I mentioned to you guys, even the cliches that are there, the typical tropes and plot beats, they all work. I mean, they're all sold organically, naturally by the cast. So the little things I had issues with, the gripes that I have, it's all minor stuff, and that's just me kind of being a film snob. But this is going to be a huge opening next weekend. It's going to be a huge popcorn movie. What do we say? Up until Scream comes out, it should be at the top of the box office until Scream drops.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. What about you, Mike? Where do you rank this one, and what's your letter grade?
In terms of where I rank it, I'm just a fan of nostalgia. I will say the second one I think was everybody was waiting for. And with Drago and everything, which anyway. But yeah, I to me I put the second one in there because I just thought that was payoff, and I felt they delivered on that. But I'm gonna put 2, 3, 1, but it's almost like 3 and 1 only like are kind of interchangeable for me. Only because I think I'm on the Jonathan Majors train. That brother do no wrong, and I just felt as the opponent of this film, I was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, you there, you there. And it's weird. It's like again, you make a good point. Not avoid the third movie in a franchise, the curse of that at all. I'll say I give this again around A minus to B plus. I don't. There was no really performance. I felt that okay, they could take this out of the movie. If anything, me saying I wanted more, but yet I was still satisfied. It's more, hey, I enjoyed the entree, but I want a little more, more sauce on it, just so I can enjoy a little bit more. give me extra, side of the meat and everything, a little bit fat on it. I'm okay with it. But anyway, I had a clean plate, so it was, and then Michael B. Jordan, I'm looking forward to your next directorial debut. And then again, this was a good outing, and can't wait to see what you do next. And Jonathan Majors, yeah, I'll be, singing the coattails all the way up to when you walk on stage, receive your Oscar.
Hey, he might, man. Magazine dreams, he questioned. So for me, where do I rank? I should have thought about this before I did this. I think I'm gonna do 1, 3, 2. Um, it so this is the weird thing, and I'm gonna say this nicely. I'm being very over critical on this film. The reason why I'm being critical because this had the capacity of being the best in the trailer. If you think about it, there are no characters. There's no Rocky. There's nothing to draw people into this. You know what I'm saying? Like they're really shooting this from the hip with nothing. And then you have a first-time director that's also in the movie. Like there's so many things that are going against it, but yet they did great with character progression, great acting, great setup. You know what I'm saying? And then great fights and choreography. Like you had so much. And it's like it's small little threads, like certain narrative choices they could have made with certain characters, the way and the length of the movie, adding certain scenes. I think this movie would have benefited from adding certain scenes to progress the narrative in a stronger way than any of the rest. And because it didn't lean on Rocky, I was like, man, this actually could have been. Well, I was watching it, I was like, this could end up being the best. And unfortunately, it didn't. So I'm being very overcritical with it. It's still a B plus for me, if not an A minus. It's really in between. And I think that with repeated viewing, just watching the performances alone may upgrade it to an A minus to me because the performances are amazing in this one. And I thought that the first one had great performances and the second one had great action, but this one, it really had a great balance of both. It just wasn't long enough for me. I didn't like certain changes they made at the ending of it. And yeah, so but I still put this at number 2. I'll say 1, 3, 2. Yeah, yeah.
We all
So
give different answers. That's crazy. It's crazy the fact that there's not each one you take. It's like you're not wrong. We're
right,
not wrong. You're not
right.
wrong. That's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
and the thing is, like you guys that are hearing this, hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I'm gonna try to put this on the podcast as well. Watch it for yourself. You're not gonna be disappointed. This is a movie that nonetheless, like this franchise is great. Like it's got something for everyone. Now, I will say there's language, there's violence, so you may not want to, take your kids before screening it, or at the very least, make sure you're there with your kids. But nonetheless, man, like this franchise, I give a clap because to give this 3 movies like this, I didn't think that they could do this. I really didn't. In hindsight, if I think about it as a trilogy, I'm buying this as soon as it comes out on Blu-ray or 4K. So I don't have anything more. I want to kind of give these guys some time. Where can everybody find you, Jedi Mike?
You can find me in the gym where I'll be having that body in 2 months. Without the majors, come for those muscles. I will be the conqueror. Watch me. But hey, anyway, yeah, you can also find me on Jedi Mike 7 on YouTube. I also do movie reviews as well, but you also find me on this platform as well on TeamJVS.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you for coming, man. And last but not least, Derek Dunn. Where can everybody find you, man?
So Instagram reviews and done, and primarily the primary site is reviewsanddone.net, and the backup is reviewsanddone.info. A podcast has kind of been on hiatus for the past 2 years, but you guys can go check out my podcast. It's on all podcast platforms. I've interviewed everybody from Ralph Tresvant to Avant to Garfield, from Shy to Troy Taylor. So a lot of R&B cats have been on the podcast.
Yes, sir, man. Go and check out my man Derek Dunn. Yeah, you guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this overview of Creed 3. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. We gave this probably at average an A minus to a B plus, which is great. That's good news for you guys. So go and check out Creed 3. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Maybe we'll do some giveaways depending on we'll see. We'll play around with that. I may pull Jedi Mike and we might do a watch party of the first one or second or something like that and do a watch party then. But none the least, you guys, we're gonna go. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, people.